Last off.
Oh, good morning. The Finance Committee meeting will be called to order at 10:32 a.m., March 16th, 2022. All members are present. And with that, can I have a motion for the approval of the agenda?
Madam Chair, I'll move approval of the agenda as written.
Second.
Great. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Thank you. Can I entertain a motion to approve the minutes as written from our very comprehensive meeting last time?
Motion to approve the
Second.
minutes as written.
Second.
Was that a second? Yeah. All in
Yeah.
favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right. Let me just start for our new viewers, the Finance Committee shall handle all matters relating to the review of the budget and continuous surveillance of the budget. The Finance Committee shall have power to review and make recommendations with regard to the mayor's annual operating budget coming soon to a theater near you, and shall submit recommendations with regard to the budget to the City Council not later than the second Monday in May of each year. And the Finance Committee shall review all proposed amendments to Title VI, Revenue and Finance of the Code. So with that, we have some transfers and appropriations to review today. I'm sure my colleagues had time to look at them. And the first one is FT 5-22. And let me just reiterate to the viewing public that a fund transfer of appropriations greater than $25,000 from one line item to another is within a fund. They're also used for fund transfers from the contingency account, bond proceeds, or from one fund to another, regardless of the amount. And most importantly, for the public to know, is that fund transfers do not increase the total budget. So we have FT 5-22 before us, general and fleet line item. So Director Dickinson, can you just give us a synopsis of this?
Yes, FT 522 is a transfer to help provide more appropriations for fuel. As you know, fuel prices are going up. The Fleet Operations Fund is not going to have adequate appropriations in their fuel line item to pay for fuel for the rest of the year. So what you see here is, as you said, a transfer within Fleet. They had some savings on the salaries from vacant positions. So we're moving that down to the fuel line item. And then the second, and that's $120,000. And the second part of that is the general fund. And we're using unused appropriations from the elections org that were not spent during our election activities of $60,000. And moving that down to finance non-allocated org, where we will do the transfer to the fleet fund. And I will mention that this is related to the supplemental appropriation that's coming up in a couple minutes too, because the fleet fund must increase its overall total budget. And so that is a supplemental appropriation. So we'll talk about that when we get there.
Okay, I was wondering if that was the best way to do it, or look at them both at the same time.
We can look at it now if the committee would rather talk about them together. These are the transfer of appropriations within the funds. And then the supplemental appropriation 1522. Wait, no, it's wrong. There we go,
Yeah.
1922. So is that the way you'd like to handle it? Would you like to talk about the supplemental appropriation?
Alderwoman Finlayson, do you have a comment?
It's the next item on the agenda, and there is a notation on the FT5 that says the appropriation will be made through the SA. So that's coming next.
Okay.
But I do have a question, if I might.
Absolutely.
Madam Chair. Can you tell us, Jody, or Ms. Dickinson, I'm sorry, the position, the 120,000 position, is that the director's funds left over from the director's position?
This is fleet operations. This is DPW. This is
Okay.
Danny Horwath's division. And it's
Okay.
not, he's had some vacancies during the year, so he had some savings there.
Okay. Good to know that where the vacancies are so that we can try to encourage.
They have been trying to fill them, and I don't know where they're at there, but he'd have to provide the details there.
Okay. The other question, it just appears odd that elections would be lumped with fleet and non-allocated.
So what you see there are two. So what you see there, a fund transfer is used to move appropriations within a fund. So we put the movement of appropriations within the fleet fund as the first two line items. The second two line items are the movement appropriations within the general fund.
Okay,
Because
so
we
that's-
have, they're all related. They're just two separate fund transfers on that sheet.
Okay, got it. It appeared as if they were an entity in themselves and they're not. Okay, thank you.
And as far as the SA 1922 is concerned, because the general fund is sending an additional $60,000 to the fleet fund, we have to increase the appropriations within the fleet fund in total. So we need the supplemental appropriation of $60,000 added to their supplies account and their other revenue, which is the revenue item specifically is the transfer coming in from general fund.
So Madam Chair, do you want to take a vote on the FT and then the SA? Or do you want further discussion on the SA? Or
I think the SA is, we do, I think we do, thank you for asking. I think we do need to look at them both sort of at the same time in the sense that a supplemental appropriation, this SA was not anticipated in the budget, so it is in excess. So it does theoretically increases the budget. And so we just have to acknowledge that. But am I correct in saying it that way, Director?
Yes, correct.
Yeah. But I have a question just because of the increase in the fuel, which we don't see coming down in the near future. Have we done an estimate to complete, so to speak, on whether or not there'll be any more increases, or have we in this transfer looked ahead?
So as of the time that we were developing this, which was a couple weeks ago, this is what they would need to finish the year. But as you know, the prices have only gone up since then. So we may end up coming back in May or June and asking for additional fuel money. I will have to determine at the time what the source of the funding would be.
Okay. So first, let me just put a motion on the floor to discuss both of them. No motion for action right now, just so we know what we're talking about, both the fund transfer and the supplemental appropriation on the same subject. Is that fair to ask?
Madam Chair, I was shaking my head. If you'd like a motion, I would be glad to make a motion to give a favorable to FT5, and if you want to lump them together, SA 1922.
Cool. Okay.
Is that your pleasure?
Thank you. Carmen, would you like to second that? And you're muted, and I see that you have had your hand up. So.
Yes, so my question was, okay, so we've had a motion and seconded it to discuss.
Yeah.
Okay, so my question for Director Dickinson is, you said if you have to come back in May, do we have another fund that we could move towards this, or are we going to stop driving for the next 2 months?
So we would probably at that time go to the contingency account where we put the contingency reserve. That's held back for bad weather, unexpected events, and there will be some left there, hopefully, in May, so that we could use that. Or we'd find savings in other departments within the general fund.
Okay, thank you.
May I ask a question, Director Dickinson? When we're looking at a supplemental appropriation for this budget and we are taking it from the general fund, what we're looking at then is money that we cannot define as savings in this budget. So it's not like we're, I guess theoretically the value of the budget has gone up, but in looking ahead at fiscal year 2023, we just have less money left over.
Right. And so in the general fund, because we're moving $60,000 out of the general fund to fleet, that will lower the positive results in the general fund by $60,000 in this fiscal year. And so going into next year, we'd have less.
Yeah.
In fund balance.
Okay.
May I ask?
Yeah.
May I
Yes.
ask?
Yes.
That does not change our budget at all. Isn't that correct, Ms. Dickinson? Our budget remains the same, our overall budget. We are simply moving monies around within the existing budget.
So if you're referring to the total appropriations in the general fund, that total amount has not changed. But as a result of this, what Alderwoman Tierney was saying is that we are going to take $60,000 of funding that's in the general fund and transfer it to the fleet fund so that the fund balance in the general fund at the end of the year will be lower by $60,000.
Yeah, that's a given. I just wanted.
Yes, the total
community to be
appropriation authority
clear.
does not change.
Exactly. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, where did we leave off? We have a second. Why don't we close on that motion that we are just, so all in favor of discussing both together, say aye.
Madam Chair, the motion is to give a favorable recommendation to these two.
Oh, I didn't hear favorable recommendation. Good, so we can do both. Great. All right, any more discussion on both FA 5-22 and SA 19-22?
I mean, if we don't fund it, then they're not driving, so.
Yeah, that's my worry is, we don't want to, when we reach a point where we have to do this again, that's what we want to prevent. So, Alderwoman O'Neill's comment is somewhat applicable. Let's minimize our driving or trucks or whatever that are out. I don't know. I mean, I'm thinking a lot of this might have been the snowstorm and definitely justifiable reasons, but just to be cautionary.
Well, Madam Chair, if I might, we empower our department heads to provide the services, and we have to give them the tools to provide the services. And DPW needs its trucks on the road. So I don't think we should be trying to determine how they drive, when they drive, who drives, or any of that. If they need additional revenue, then it's our responsibility to figure out how to take care of the need. And we all know that gas prices are going up. They go up every single day. And so we should expect that they may have to come back to us. If we want them to continue to provide the services, they need to drive the trucks, which means they need gas. So it's not an anomaly. It's simply part of our budget process that if they don't have money in their particular line item, then we find money elsewhere in our budget to take care of that need. So we should expect them to come back to us, given the state of the economy right now and the cost of gas. So that's not, that shouldn't be an out of the ordinary thing. It should be expected that will have to happen. The issue will become if we don't have the money to move around to take care of their need.
I think to your point, I think we can give Director Johnson the respect that he knows how to manage his vehicles under this economic climate. Alderwoman O'Neill.
And I was just going to say that my comments maybe wasn't appropriate, but I was basically saying, if we don't pass this, then they're not driving. I wasn't directing him to not drive.
No, understood.
I was just reiterating the fact that we need to pass this. We need to find the money to continue. I have a lot of constituents that are waiting for jobs to be done. So we can't have them not being able to fuel their vehicles as an excuse to our constituents. So.
Understood. And if I'm not correct, is this just DPW, Director Dickinson? Is this what when you say city vehicles, what city vehicles?
So fleet operations pays for the fuel for all city vehicles. So that would include all the police vehicles, fire apparatus, DPW vehicles, planning and zoning inspectors,
Yeah.
et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. Okay, that's an important point.
So
Very important
transportation
point.
fuel, he buys the transportation fuel, but he gets reimbursed from the transportation fund. So they pay their own.
Yeah. They need.
Madam-
Go ahead.
Madam Chair, you may recall that a few years ago, we created the fleet, because prior to that, every department had their own fleet management. And we consolidated all of our vehicles under one category. And so that's why all of the fuel goes, the cost or the funding for fuel goes to that one department, sub-department. And then they allocate it out as needed by all the other departments, to all the other departments that have vehicles that need fuel.
Yeah, that's correct. And that's a huge point that this does include our public safety vehicles. I did not realize that last night. I don't know why I had in my head just DPW and city employees. And I suspect that this increase, as you know, I live at Park Place and on Taylor Road, and I hear that siren, I think once every 15 minutes. I mean, it's extraordinary. These public safety vehicles, whether it's fire trucks, EMS, or police. So yeah, this is definitely understandable. I think it's more than just the fuel increase. I think it's the circumstances. Would we like to vote on the motion for favorable recommendation? All in favor?
Aye.
By saying aye. All righty. Okay. So we have one in the middle. Well, we have a short meeting. Well, we'll see. If there's any other things to talk about, but we have SA 15-22, which we had previously looked at and sent back for it to definitely go to the right place. This is SA 15-22. It was a memorial donation, and it allocated $1,000 specific to the Stanton Center, and my colleagues wanted to ensure that it did go. I think it was Alderwoman O'Neill that wanted to ensure that it specifically went to the Stanton Center. And I suspect, Director Dickinson, that's what this does.
Yeah, so this is a supplemental appropriation for Rec and Parks to spend the donation that they received. The issue was the donor and whether or not they intended to get a taxable donation from this $1,000. And we are not a tax exempt, or they cannot claim this as a donation on their tax forms because we are not the right kind of entity to have that occur. So there was discussion as to whether or not they would give it to a 501c3 somewhere in the community who would then give it to the Stanton Center. And I was tasked with reaching out to the donor, and so far, Rec and Parks couldn't give me a phone number. They gave me an email, which I wrote to and never received a response. So now it's just been out here. If Stanton Center wants to spend the funds, they're going to have these supplemental appropriations. And I don't know at what point we decide to move forward with using the donation. So.
Alderwoman Finlayson?
Yes, thank you. Ms. Dickinson, does this mean that they are not able to use this $1,000? It
Not
says
until you-
contractual services.
Not until you pass, that the council passes the supplemental appropriation.
Oh, okay. So once this is done, they will be,
Mhm.
okay.
Yeah, and so because I haven't heard back from the email address, I don't know what other action to take to try to locate the person who made the donation. So it was done in calendar year 21. So I would assume that's already been considered for a taxable, for the tax returns, but I can't be sure about that. No,
May I ask another question about our tax exempt status? What is our tax exempt status?
We are a government organization. A donation to us does not prevent the donation from, it does not make the donation a tax-free expense. Meaning if you make a donation to a charitable organization, we're not a charitable organization. That's the simplest way to put it. We're not a charity. We're a government.
But when we make purchases, they are tax exempt.
From sales taxes. I'm talking about not having to pay income tax
Okay.
for the
income tax.
donation.
Okay. Thank you.
And we don't pay income taxes either. So we don't pay income taxes and we don't pay sales taxes.
Is this a common occurrence so that we should be looking at some kind of program for?
We don't get these very often.
Okay.
Maybe one or two in a fiscal year. And they're typically smaller dollar amounts.
Okay. And I assume this will be on, go ahead, Alderwoman.
I was going to say, in my notes from the last time when we talked about it, that the Stanton Center runs through the Community Foundation. They can divert people to donate to the Community Foundation, and whereas the Community Foundation will then donate the money back, and that's tax exempt. So that was what I believe Director Dickinson was trying to contact the donor to let them know that if we wanted to send the money back, they could then donate through the Community Foundation, because this money going into the general fund, the Stanton Center can use it for whatever they want, not necessarily for children's programs, which I think was the original intent of the donation.
Oh, well, I'm sure that Director Trader will use the money for whatever it was intended for.
Good.
Okay, so was the donor notified of those options?
So I sent an email
Right.
asking if this was the person who made the donation, and I have not received anything back. So I don't know what else to do to try to find the person.
Alderwoman
Madam-
O'Neill, I was just curious on Alderwoman O'Neill, are you satisfied with this approach?
I am. I would rather get the money into the hands of the Stanton Center than having it just sit in our.
It's just in a
Sitting idle.
misleading, yeah, it's sitting idle. We haven't used it, spent it yet.
And that's
So
what this does. Go ahead,
after
Alderwoman O'Neill. Mason.
After our Monday meeting, then they will be able to use these funds.
Yes, the Rec and Parks would be able to, presuming the council passes it on the next meeting, they would be able to use it.
It will be on consent, I imagine.
Yes, it's small. It's a small dollar amount. Should be on the consent calendar. I see the city attorney's on too. I don't know if he's on for general information or if there's something specific he wants to address.
Mr. Lyles?
Just for any questions, no problem. Just say
Okay.
hello, everybody.
All right.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion that we give a favorable recommendation to SA 1522.
Do I have a
And I'll
second?
second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. All right, I think that's all we have for the agenda today. Maybe I will take the opportunity just to say that we will be having a city council work session on the budget coming up, the introduction of the budget, save the date on April 11th, which is coming up. So just a point of information. Is there anything else? Alderman Arnett, do you have anything to add or say?
Is there going to be an update from the finance director?
Oh, thank you so much. I didn't have that second cup of coffee. Director Dickinson, why don't you give us an update on how busy you are right now? Oh my God.
Yeah, always the same things right now. The budget, Katie Conley and I are attempting to finish up the components of the general fund budget. We are still in the middle of the union negotiations, so we may not have particulars as we close that process, so we'll have to figure out how we put that in the budget. We are working, the annual comprehensive financial report has been issued. I don't know if that was out at the date of the last finance committee meeting. That's finalized. And we sent it out in email to everybody. We are also trying to finalize the P3 deal and still trying to fill positions here. So, and nothing on that front.
I saw that you sent it to the FAC, but did my colleagues receive
The
it?
audit committee got it, and I believe one of the groups was all council. So I assume
Okay.
the entire council got it.
Just wanted to
I think we
make
sent
sure.
it to the department heads too.
Um,
So anyways, that and trying to get staffed up, but we haven't had any movement on that front. So
There's a lot of anxiety about the ARPA agreement. Is there anything that you can say, anything more that you can say about it as far as where that is?
So when you say the ARPA agreement, we've already received half of the ARPA funds, and we've used some for transit activities in FY21.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, the AMRP agreement.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, too many acronyms.
No, we're still working with AMRP and on some terms of the concession arrangement, trying to nail down a few of those terms. So, yeah, that's in process. We've met on and off with them over the last couple of weeks, and it's pushing forward.
Thank you. Any questions for Director Dickinson? Yes, Alderwoman Finlayson.
Yes, thank you. Director, you just said that you're still working on the agreement with AMRP. Will we see the actual contract anytime in the near future?
So anytime in the near future, what does that mean?
Before the garage
What is
comes down?
So I would defer that question to the city attorney. It'll be once it's a finished contract, it may be more available for viewing, but until it's signed and completely executed, I don't know what the status would be about circulating the contract itself if it's not in fully executed form.
Well, may I ask Mr. Lyles, will we see something before the garage comes down?
Yes.
It'll definitely be finished and executed before the garage
Yeah,
comes
we
down.
can't, the garage cannot come down without an
Okay.
executed contract. So once it's executed, you will see it. It will likely be in some kind of public forum, as most executed contracts are. So
Okay.
you'll be the first to get it. And then the construction or destruction takes place.
So are we still on schedule to bring the garage down by the end of the month?
There is.
I see
there
your
is
crystal
only-
ball in front of you, so,
There
you
are
know.
only estimates of anticipated timeframes. The sooner we get it done, it is my understanding that the trucks and the demolition is ready to go within days. So, but I think we're close. to an executed agreement. But again, once that is executed, I think every Whiting Turner is on tap to within days, if not hours, to start moving, material and folks in to start the demolition process.
Do we know what's going to happen to us?
That's a David Gerald question.
Okay.
And there are plans for that. Most of it has to do with shuttle service and parking in other locations. Agreements have been struck, and movement around parking is ongoing. Not everything's finalized, but with respect to meetings and things like that, those and employees, that's a priority for us.
I can only answer that question from the perspective of the employees. We will be parking at Park Place and coming in on a bus shuttle service. I don't know what the arrangements are for the council. You have nighttime meetings, so that may be different. It may involve the other garages, maybe GOTS or some other parking arrangement. I don't know the particulars on that.
Well, let me ask, has there been a discussion about remaining virtual during the construction, or at least part of it? I guess
the
not.
Only conversation I've been involved in, I think the question came from one of the council members, the same thing, is could we remain virtual during that time frame? And besides that question that came, I don't know if there's been any determination on that or not.
Thank you.
Yeah, there is a lot of anxiety from the downtown businesses and residents, understandably. It sounds like we're really against the wall here. I just FYI, I crammed in a meeting for the Ward 1 Residents Association. I believe it's on the 22nd, asking Eileen Fogarty to please present the parking plan and the Park Mobile implementation, which ideally should already be implemented. But I see that we've really got ourselves against the wall here, so I'll take what I can get. So good luck on the final agreement. It's a lot really relies on that.
Yes, and I'll be very glad when this is finalized and moving along.
And we have we're striking other agreements as well to move people around. So there are a lot of moving parts, and I think the city manager and the mayor have done all that they can to kind of make sure that there's the least amount of issues with moving folks around, even though they have to park blocks away. It should be pretty convenient.
Yeah, I think the meeting with the Ward 1 Residents Association will be with Premier Parking, who will be implementing this Park Mobile plan, and we'll hear what the rates are and that and all of that. So yeah,
I know I can walk a little more too. So I'll be looking forward to walking a couple of blocks.
I'm definitely going to be walking from Park. Yeah, the Mayor Buckley did meet with the Park Place residents and gave them an update on the shuttling and who's going to be parking down below and all that good stuff. So, all right. Wow. Anything else, Director Dickinson? Oh, when will we actually have the concession money in hand after the agreement is signed? When is it in the bank?
So a lot of things have to happen for the cash. The concession agreement will come to a final point. I don't know at what time the signatures are obtained, but at the same time, the AMRP has to go forward with their financing. And right now their plan is to go through Medco for the senior debt and issue through them. So they've got to go through a Medco process. So when the borrowing is complete, and they have settled on their financial borrowing, the monies will be available.
What is the Medco process? What is that?
Medco.
Medco
is a state level organization that acts as a conduit debt issuer to give a tax exempt status to bonds that otherwise would not have tax exempt status.
Is it crazy out there right now with the proposed interest rate hikes? And
I don't know, but
It's
that's
just not the
one of those elements that makes me really concerned, is that the
Yeah,
longer
me
we go
too.
out with this, that the rates could climb, and then that would make the borrowing even
Yeah.
more expensive.
Yeah.
So
totally understand. Okay. That's why you're finance director and I'm an alderwoman.
and I don't know all about this either. So a lot of moving parts, and inflation too is something that we're concerned with, and
Yeah.
getting this moving forward.
Yeah. Alderman Arnett, do you have anything to comment on how are your residents doing?
Well, they're anxious and we're doing our own parking throws, but thank you for asking and thank you for a short finance committee meeting.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much. Well, can I entertain a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Okay.
All right, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All right, thank you, everyone.